Hey, hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm Brandon. This is LiveActuary, bringing strategies for balancing success. And in this video, we're going to be discussing what we can learn from Elon Musk. So let's get into it. The funny part is that I was actually going to make this video before the Revolutionary Actuaries ad came out, because I wanted to discuss two principles that I feel are extremely important when doing any type of actuarial work that may at times be overlooked. And those are how complex our work actually is, so maybe being able to simplify it, and how much maintenance we're actually creating while we do our work. And at the end, I'll have a life update as well, so stay tuned for that, because I'll have a few questions for the audience as well. The first topic is simplicity. I feel like Elon Musk idolizes simplicity a fair amount. In his one speech when he was revealing Starship, he mentioned that the best part is no part. The best process is no process. Undesigning is the best thing. Just delete it. I think this is a very important topic when we're talking about rocket design, but this, I feel, is a fundamental idea that can be extrapolated to many other industries. For the actuarial field, one of the easiest ways to simplify a process is to automate it. However, with automation comes maintenance, monitoring, as well as process risk. So we have to make sure that we're balancing those aspects with what we're trying to implement in our modeling. Our modeling itself can be as complex as we want it to be. Like we as actuaries are very, very technical when it comes to our modeling itself, and we can make some very complex and accurate predictions. However, the first thing that comes to mind with that is implementing that complexity. Is that going to add to the expense ratio so much to the point where that added complexity isn't actually worth implementing? This leads us on to the second point, which would be the scope of maintenance and monitoring in the actuarial profession. Maintenance is definitely one of those things that are more difficult to define in the actuarial profession. Specifically, one of the things that we definitely need to look out for when we're actually going to make a decision is how much is going to cost down the line in the future to be able to upkeep what we want to see put in place. I think this topic is best described through an example. And the first example that comes to my mind is pricing by peril or by loss type. Historically, in a book of business for an insured, they might actually have all the losses aggregated for all perils, and they may not have the loss types split up. Now, we might text mine out loss types to be able to model them individually. An example might be hurricane losses. So on the east coast of North America, there might be a lot of hurricanes that happen, and we want to model hurricane losses. So we'll text mine out those hurricane losses from our loss descriptions and be able to model hurricane losses historically, maybe 10 years or so. One of the things we definitely need to consider before implementing or even potentially starting the project is, do we have the system architecture in place to future define a hurricane loss versus wind losses or other types of losses? Are the routine actuarial processes in place able to actually expand to include those hurricane losses? An example of this is a company might have an automated solution for monitoring indications. So is the actual book rate adequate? Or they might have an automated solution for monitoring by characteristic of an individual. And if those processes aren't expandable to include those hurricane losses, what's the cost going to be to actually have that integrated into the system? A common area for adverse selection is to have model degradation happen and not be able to actually monitor the process properly to detect whether you're actually seeing the adverse selection. With the hurricane example, we might have hurricane product priced and wind product priced, and they might be together rate adequate. However, since we did our preliminary analysis on the hurricane losses before and we didn't implement any process in place to monitor that, we're going to end up having an underpriced hurricane product and an overpriced wind product. And either A, we're not going to have our business grow as much as we would like to, or B, we're going to have a bunch of adverse selection in the hurricane losses that's going to end up actually making our exposure to hurricane losses grow extremely quickly and become an unprofitable book of business. So in short, I think that the scope of monitoring and maintenance should also include defining how much maintenance is going to actually be due to the implementation of this added complexity. We should also make sure that the preliminary analyses that we did is replicatable, making sure that the documentation in place to make sure that the system architecture can be updated to make sure that our routine processes that are expandable can actually accompany that additional complexity. Now, if these things aren't well defined, I think we should do what Elon Musk mentions and just delete it. If these things aren't well defined and documented, and we run into key actuarial risk where that individual itself could leave the company and we're just left with this huge hole of something that changed that is difficult to replicate and is gonna cost a lot to rebuild. So before I get into my life update, yeah, you guys will definitely notice that I have a little bit of a bias to documentation. I absolutely love documentation. I guess here I'm documenting my life, but not only that, I love writing and documenting everything I do. I think it's extremely useful and important. I'll have a life update at the end of the video. If you all like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, join the actuarial journey. You know, if there's a Tesla recruiter out there watching this video, you know, message me. I'll respond. I'd love to get in contact. And as always, thanks for watching. My life update is going to be a little shorter this time. All I want to discuss is that I'm going to be making videos more often, more frequently, and I want to spend more time giving back to the community. So if there's anything you guys want to learn about, about the actuarial profession, or maybe anything to do with actuarial science in North America, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'm going to do my best to make videos on all of this content. Hello, squirrel. Just chilling. Should we do it? Should we go hang out with the squirrel? Let's go hang out with the squirrel. Hello. How's it going? How's it going, little bud? Okay. All right. A little wet. Best to make videos on all of this content.